Today we are going to learn CSS selector using dynamic. How do we find a dynamic CSS selector using different methods? So today's agenda will be trying to find CSS selector using ID, using contents, using attributes, using start with and end with, so that no matter what, we'll be finding a dynamic elements CSS selector. And by the end of the session, we'll be giving which one is more reliable amongst XPath or CSS selector as well. Let's begin. So let's get to the basic. What is CSS selector, right? So CSS selector is basically a pattern of element that tells the browser which HTML it belongs to. It uses the CSS pattern. And here, like, what is attribute in HTML element? So attribute is nothing but it describes the characteristics of HTML element. And thirdly, how to inspect a web page on Chrome browser. So those are the three important things. So to inspect a web page, you just have to right click on browser and click inspect. So let's learn about dynamic CSS selector using ID. How do we find the dynamic CSS selector using ID, right? So as we can see here, the syntax is tag name has ID. An example will be this one. Right. So here I do have a Facebook page. Let me go ahead and inspect. So to inspect, I just right click and inspect, and I'll use this button here to go ahead and inspect this email text box. So just to give you a basic preview, here this input is a tag name. This is what is the tag name, and all these like name and value pair, those are the attributes for this tag name, right, for this element itself. So in order to go ahead and find a CSS selector, we'll just check whether the selector that we use is the right one or not. So for that, you just have to press Command F if you're using Mac and Control F if you're using Windows. So as soon as you press that, you'll see a bar over here where you can search the string, selector, or XPath. So you can just type the selector here, and then if it highlights a particular element, then your selector is right. So as you can see here, the formula, the syntax, it says tag name has ID, right? So the tag name over here is input. So let me go ahead and write input over here, and it says as. So as you can see, still the code is belongs to the input text box over there. So now I'll just go ahead using ID, right? So as you can see here on the ID, the value is email. So let me write email over here. Perfect. As you can see here, it's a perfect match, 1 of 1, and the code is highlighting the input text. So this is how you find the dynamic CSS selector using ID. Let me go ahead and copy this one. So CSS selector using ID. So the value will be this one, right? Input has email. So using class name. So here as well, we'll be doing the same thing, right? Like tag name dot, like whatever the value of class name it comes, we'll be just using similar as we did for the ID. It's only the class name value, and instead of has, we'll be using dot. So I won't be reproducing this one. Let's get to the next slide. Now let's learn about dynamic CSS selector using attribute, right? This is very important, and this is mostly widely used in automation. So what we're trying to do here is the syntax is tag name, and we'll use whatever attribute is available, right? As you know, the selenium use name, ID, class name. Let's say like all of those are not available, right? All other attributes are available. This is the best hit, and you can automate or find a locator as fast as you can. So let's go ahead with this syntax here. So the tag name, attribute, and the value. So let me go ahead and inspect the page, right click, inspect. Let me go ahead and find, let's say, the email text box itself. Let me press Command F. So the syntax here, it says tag name. So the tag name is input. Let me go and write input here. And what else it says? I have to open the square bracket. Let me go ahead and open square bracket here. And what it says now, attribute equals value, right? So what attribute equal value, the syntax that means is I can basically use any of the thing here. Let me show you something here. So type, as you can see here, the attribute type is there. Let's say equals, and the value here, let me you can copy here, right click, copy, right click, paste. Perfect. As you can see here, I'm using name nor ID or anything, right? So any attribute will work. You can use class, name, anything. So as you can see here, input, and I'm using the attribute type equals text. Let me copy this and paste it here using attribute. So just to give you an extra example on this, right? You can over here in this attribute section, you can use anything. Let me go ahead and use this name equals symbol, right? So let me copy this here and let me write the attribute name equals double quote. Perfect. As you can see here, one of one match, right? This is what we need. This is how we do for this dynamic CSS selector using and dynamic CSS selector using contents. It is same, somewhat related to the earlier one that we did, right? Only the difference here will be this asterisk sign. As you can see here, the rest everything is the same, whereas the asterisk is extra on the syntax, right? So what does this contains mean? So this is star. It denotes the CSS selector with contents. So what exactly it means is earlier we used to have attribute name equals value, right? We have to give all the value. But if we after the attribute, if we give asterisk, then we don't have to write the full name. Let me show you this in action. So let me go ahead and inspect, search for the, let's go ahead with login button here, right? And I'll press Command F to come bring this search option here. So as you can see here, the syntax is the same. Tag name, square bracket, attribute, star equals value, right? So earlier what we did was the tag name here is button. So let me go ahead and write button and square bracket, right? Close inside. So I'll just go with. So now, as you know with the syntax, I can go with any attribute. There is no any hard and fast rule, right? So let me go ahead and spell again. Login button here. So let me go ahead and use this name attribute for a while, right? So what it does is NAMA name, and let's say button with name and let's say asterisk, right? And equals, so let's go code. So as you can see here now, so far nothing is selected, right? But let's say what does this asterisk does is I don't have to write the full name of the full value of the attribute. Let me show you this in action first. Let me remove without asterisk. As you can see here, this was the syntax that we did earlier, right? So now let me show you the difference with asterisk. If I go ahead and erase like in, it does not like denotes, right? Like 0 0. But if I put asterisk over here, which means use contents, as you can boom, as you can see here, if I put asterisk, I don't have to put the full details of the attribute value. I can just use few of them and it will just recognize by itself. One. Let me put this over here using attribute. So it's using contents. Contents is nothing mainly about asterisk. Learn CSS selector using starts with, right? So with regards to the starts with, we will have a caret symbol which indicates starts with, and even like similar to earlier, everything is the same. Whereas if we put a caret sign right after the attribute, what it does is it will just find try to search all the value that starts with that. So let me show you this in action here. Let me show you for the same thing, right? As you can see here, so button name, it doesn't find. Let's see, cat sign. Let me search for the cat sign here. Okay. As you can see here, it finds. It's the same thing. Tag name, square bracket, and after the attributes, if we go with caret sign, it will just try to search whatever the name it has been given, right? So let me copy this and paste it here. So just to conclude, it starts with is nothing but it's only the difference amount. And find the CSS selector using entry. Over here, dollar symbol indicates entry. So here nothing is the difference. It will be the same syntax, but only the difference will be after the attribute will be putting a dollar value. So let's go back. As you can see here, the starts with is caret symbol and the ends with is dollar, right? So what does that really mean is it will be looking for the value that ends with that. So let me show you this in action here. As you can see here, if I type, let's say, in, it doesn't find anything, right? Because the value is ending with in over here. So, but if I go ahead and put the dollar sign here, let me go ahead and put the dollar sign. Perfect. So what the dollar sign does is it will just go ahead and search the value that ends with in, and it finds the value over here login, which is ending with in, and it's just finding that element. Perfect. Let me go ahead and copy this one and paste it here. So ends with is nothing but we're just adding a dollar sign after that. Let's go ahead and find the CSS selector using multiple attributes. So multiple attributes is nothing but basically you can add the same like any more attributes that you can have in the element. Just to make, go ahead and inspect this first name text box here. So as you can see here, this is the element. Let me go ahead and command F. Let's go ahead and add tag name, right? INPUT is the tag name here. And let me give here. So let me go ahead and inspect the first name again. So let me go ahead and make it with a type attribute. So let me set right type equals. So as you can see here, if I'm using this section here in this way, then it is giving me one of two. So if I use this as my selenium locator in my selenium code, then it doesn't work because it is not a unique, right? We need one of one, which should be unique so that my code will identify that it needs to go there. So what I will do here is I'll use the multiple attribute syntax that we just learned. So what I will go ahead and do is I'll just go ahead and look for another attribute which can help me. So let me go ahead and use this name attribute here with this value. So name equals first name. So mechanic is perfect. As you can see here now, I get in one of one. So this is how we can use multiple attributes to make it unique. So let me go ahead and paste it here.